Hey Void, Iffy Rizzo's here again to chat it up and well, I was looking at back today at a movie that I particularly enjoyed quite a while ago. For a while it was one of my favorite even horror films for a time, I wouldn't say top ones, but it was one I enjoyed quite a bit when it came out. And I was ready to think nostalgia kind of gave it a decent uplift in my memory, so I was ready to give this one kind of a decent score just before I even put it in. But yeah, nostalgia can definitely elevate something, and watching it again more objectively, more cracks and problems arise. And I think I really enjoyed the concepts of the movie more so than the actual execution. And I always kind of ran through more on that. So that's for They, or Wes Craven Presents They. Sort of. Okay. This movie came out in 2002, and from what I can tell, it's sort of a production nightmare. Now, it's Wes Craven Presents, but that's his name right there above the title is about all you're gonna find his name on this film. He's sort of an executive producer, but other than pretty much getting a paycheck to put a stamp of approval on this one, that's all the involvement he had. Yeah, he didn't write it, didn't direct it, didn't really even do much in terms of producing it. So, yeah. Okay. Also, from a writing standpoint, is where this movie has some issues, and reading a little bit into it, I think I see part of the problem. Now, while the script is credited to Brendan William Hood, that's not, again, exactly true. As his script was passed around so many times between different authors that so little of the original concept remains that it's really an entirely different concept. Now, They, as a movie, well, first I should say I think it went through 10 different authors on the script. So, yeah, that's where some tone problems are coming from. Anyway, so They is it's essentially a boogeyman style story. So, group of college people who had night terrors when they were kids, or college graduates. They're, I guess, not college students. One's about to get her master's. So, anyway, uh, they had night terrors back when they were kids, and now one of their friends, who really was always more freaked out and obsessed with those night terrors, kills himself, and after still apparently trying to issue some sort of warning. And from there, it seems the monsters from their night terrors when they were kids are coming back. Now, I'm a sucker for this kind of story. Monster under the bed, monster in the closet, those old school kind of things, they're my sweet spot. So that's probably why I enjoyed this movie a lot right at first off, because there's a lot of cool concepts here. And the fact that they don't really take the time to explain a lot of it does add something, I think. The mysterious of who are they, what do they want, is never fully explained. But they still have this feeling of hostility, and it works. But what doesn't work is a lot of the dialoguing, because some of the performances are a bit on the wooden end. There's some characters who deliver some very monotone deliveries, and like some reactions to things. I can see what they're trying to do, but aren't the most well executed. Like I mentioned, their friend, one of them kills himself, and he does it by shooting himself right in front of one of the other characters, whose reaction, well, I kind of think they were trying to portray shock. This was just as she gets hit with blood, and then it's just like kind of a dull stare, which I can see what they're trying to do, but the way it comes across, it doesn't flow very well. Also, some of the characters' communications are a little weird. There's a couple scenes that just seem odd, like the main girl comes home to her boyfriend drunk, and she's mad at him for, I guess, having a few drinks with his friends when she needs him, but he didn't know she needed her, and he had a particularly rough time also, so it's just kind of hard to sympathize with sometimes. Not always. Usually she's very sympathetic. When every once in a while, she'll just do something where you just want to just try to tell her to calm down. Now, the monsters themselves are cool and an interesting design, I think, because you can never really see them very clearly. You only see them in a lot of darkness. You'll see just them flash up on the screen very briefly, or there are some twisted tangle of limbs and a roughly humanoid shape. And for this weird grunting scream, they're creepy. And the fact that one of the main things is they can't exist in light. Like if a flashlight passes over them, they're gone. But if they're like just laying there, the flashlight passes over them, they're gone while the light's on them, but as soon as it moves off, they're back. So essentially treated like darkness is their gateway into our world. Now they marked a bunch of kids, and now 20 years later, they're coming back for them. Why are they doing that? Never really goes into it, and I think that's cool. But like they've marked them in a particular way. Are they doing like a catch and release for study? Is this a farming thing for food? They never really go into it. There's a couple theories that are bounced around, but my one that I kind of go is it's a way of creating more of their number, as when the main girl like touches some of the black stuff, her fingers and hands kind of twist and contort, and it kind of reminded me of how some of them look. So I'm wondering if it's maybe how they do it. Do they reproduce? Could be. I don't know. But that mystery is kind of a strong point of the film, even if the pace and tone around it isn't quite working for it. Now, the original script was nothing like that at all. It was about 4 college students and stumbling onto a conspiracy of the world being run by a group of organic machines that are harvesting people for replacement parts. Interesting, but for me that's going to be a harder sell than what They is. Now, like I said, there's some things where this movie just escalates weirdly, but not as bad as the time I was having with House of the Devil, but some of the characters' decisions as they run about, are a bit strange, and if they encounter something strange, they just seem to just go back to regular life a little quick. And you don't take time to learn as much about some of the characters. Like the main girl, you get her down pretty well, but her boyfriend, you don't know like really anything about him. But apparently he is working at something medical. But the only time it comes up is when he has this like complaint about how hard his day was all of a sudden out of the blue. But we've met him a couple times before then, and we had no idea what he does. And she meets 2 people who are also having a similar problem. They're talking back and forth and being scared all the time, and then one of them just goes to the pool for a swim. She never mentioned being into swimming on the swim team. She just is suddenly at the pool. It's like some of it seems a bit jarring if you stop to actually think about it. Like the first couple times I didn't have a problem with it, but then I realized, why is she at the pool when she's scared? And even a throwaway dialogue of laps of saying that, okay, this calms me down, or I have to go or if it's a practicing for a team thing or something like that. I could have worked with it, but so nostalgia, I had this movie at like an 8 in my head. I can't give it that. Definitely not. There's way too many flaws here, but it's still a sweet spot for me. I can give this one a 6. 6 MacGuffins. I am grading it a bit on the curve because this sort of movie, I'm not gonna lie, it is my jam. The cool monster designs still work for me. The concepts alone are interesting, particularly about the world that they come from. And there's also an alternate ending, which gives them an entirely different perspective of how things could have portrayed. Different, but cool. Either one kind of works fairly well for me, anyway. Now, this one's only rated PG-13. I think it could have benefited from a stronger rating just because, while it isn't strictly necessary, you could have really punched up some of the scenes a little bit more if they could add a bit more intensity. But that's just a little bit of a nitpick. As far as PG-13 horror films go, I think this one is a stronger entry if you can accept some of the wooden acting a little bit. But for me, the looming monsters in the dark thing, it works for me well. So this one works for me well. So, they, Six MacGuffins, I enjoyed it. Just ignore Wes Craven's name. He has nothing to do with it. So, just ignore the cheap marketing tactic. Alright, all from me for today.